Howdy folks, Greyhawk 4x4 coming at you again, your resident vintage gamer, and it is time for a gaming vlog. Let's roll. So, haven't done a video of any type in a couple of weeks, and that's mainly because you know, I've got a full-time job and everything. But as you probably are well aware if you follow my channel, the game company that I'm part of, TSR Games, we just finished our Kickstarter last week, I think it was, and we finished off with our goal was $12,000, and we finished off at $123,000 and some change. So we hit like 1100% funding or whatever. Just an incredible, just astronomical, you know, beyond expectations and all those other, you know, wonderful things to say. But so of course now we're in the process of trying to get everybody that wants to order add-ons, let them order add-ons, and then get to the process of getting everything printed and getting everything shipped and fulfilled to everybody that we want to do in November. That's our ship date and everything. So of course it has been kind of nonstop, just with emails and responding to comments and just working on problems, getting this fire put out and then another fire put out and then another, and so it's been pretty much nonstop. And I have, in addition to my day job, I've also been DMing my campaign back here, so it has just been, you know, incredibly busy. But now things have kind of leveled off a little bit, and it gave me the opportunity here to do a video. And I thought what I would do is, rather than try and recap everything that's gone on with the campaign and all that, I want to just tell you guys a little story about one particular NPC that is known as Wendel the Dirty, that I came up with off the top of my head. And this is a very good example of how dynamic the game of tabletop role-playing, any tabletop role-playing game, can be. And why we love, when I say we, I mean everybody out there, all of us. If you're watching, you're probably a tabletop role player. Probably about 95% of you in my audience are. So, and why we love this game so much is the type of thing that I'm getting ready to talk about. So, we have a regular, one of our regulars, Brad, buddy of mine, buddy of all of ours, who has his son who is in college. He comes from time to time with Brad and sits in when he's in town. So he's not a regular in the group, but he does pop in from time to time. And because it's summer, he's been coming more often. And he has a cleric that he likes to play, and we kind of work it in so that he's with the party. You know, when he's here, his character's with the party, and when he's not here, his character is serving in the town of Devers, in the city of Devers, at the church of St. Cuthbert, because he is a cleric. And the thing you got to understand about this particular character, this particular cleric, is that he has an extremely unorthodox manner in which to proselytize. He will do just about anything to try and get the word of Cuthbert out there to anybody that will listen. He has been known to stand in the middle of the town square of Devers and to draw a crowd to listen to him, you know, speak the gospel and everything else. He has been known to throw handfuls of gold into the street, of course. And of course he starts a riot. People are fighting over the gold and everything else, and the church, the guard comes and snatches him up and says, "What in the hell are you doing? You can't just start throwing gold just because you want to try and get some more followers, you know." So he got, you know, disciplined for that, because you can't really incite a riot. Even in medieval times, you can't really incite a riot. It's kind of against the rules. So the last time that he was here, he was doing his town square proselytizing thing, handing out. He has tons of leaflets that he hands out to everybody, you know, and about St. Cuthbert and all that. And so I tend to roll the way when I DM, I roll for random encounters. If the party is split, like, so his character at that time was just by himself doing his thing, and so along with everybody else, I will roll for that particular person, or if there's a couple of them or whatever, I will roll for that group separately from if they split the party from somebody else. So everybody gets a chance for random encounters and so forth. So I roll for his character, this cleric, and I come up with a random encounter. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, what kind of random encounter can a cleric have while he's proselytizing in the middle of a town square in a big city? And I came up with, off the top of my head, I said, well, how about crap in my mouth. How about a wandering or returning adventurer who is wandering right through town square. He's filthy from battle and bloody and exhausted looking and so forth, and he's coming through, and I explained to the cleric that you see, in addition to your normal, you know, everybody, you see this guy coming through who looks like he's been through hell. He's got a very determined look, steeled look on his face, and he's, you know, heading wherever he's going, and I just tell him, you notice that, and so he decides on his own that he is going to confront this guy, and thinking that maybe he can offer him some guidance with the word of Cuthbert or whatever, you know. And so he approaches him and basically kind of blocks his way. And this adventurer is like, "Hey man, I'm just trying to get to the tavern. I need to get an ale, you know, and get out of my way and everything." And he's like, "Well, not before you've heard the word of Cuthbert, you know." And he starts doing his proselytizing thing and everything else. And this adventurer's not having any of it. He's like, "No, get the fuck out of my way. I'm thirsty. I don't want nothing to do with you. Get away from me. I'm going through." And so the cleric, like I said, he's unorthodox. He decides that this adventurer needs to be thumped with his cudgel to try and get his attention. Well, he gets his attention. Of course, he has no idea how powerful this guy is, what level nothing. You know, he just smacks him, like, you know, like trying to, like a Catholic nun trying to smack one of her students with a ruler, you know, that type of situation. And of course, this adventurer just kicks his ass, and literally on the edge of death. Just he gets 2 attacks per round. That's how high level he is, and he just slices and dices this cleric. You know, doesn't kill him, but I mean, he leaves him there in a puddle. And the guard comes up and you know, he explains, "Hey, he hit me first. You know, I was just defending myself." And as a cleric, lawful good cleric, he admits, "Yeah, I did. I hit him first." You know, and so they let the guy go. They let Wendel the Dirty. That's what he's known as. I came up with that name off the top of my head, and I basically said that his persona is that he prefers to stay dirty looking and rough looking because he thinks that it will project an image of toughness and people will be less likely to screw with him. Of course, this cleric, he hadn't considered this cleric yet, but most people just shy away from him, you know, because he's dirty and he looks like he's been through hell and they don't want to mess with him, you know. But anyway, so he continues on to the tavern. So the cleric, of course, has to heal himself up and all that, and he decides he's going to go to the tavern, pursue this guy, and he doesn't want to give up on him as far as proselytizing goes and everything. So he goes to the tavern, and bottom line is he decides he's going to try and arm wrestle him. And I don't remember the exact wager or whatever, but something to do, you know, if he beats him, you know, he's got to go to the church and listen to a sermon or whatever, and there was gold involved. But anyway, so Wendel the Dirty decides, because I think there was gold involved, that, yeah, I'll arm wrestle you, what the hell, you know. And, of course, he beats the cleric. And so the cleric loses his gold, and Wendel the Dirty keeps on drinking and whatnot, you know. But our female barbarian, who if you've been paying attention, she is crazy. She hears word of this commotion that's been going on, and she makes her way to the tavern, and she challenges him. She gets there just in time to see him beat the cleric, you know. So she decides she's going to champion the cleric, and she's going to arm wrestle for him, and she offers up some crazy amount of platinum or whatever, you know, if the guy beats her or whatever. But if he loses, if Wendel the Dirty loses, he has to provide his services to the group for 1 month. And they queue up and everything else like that. Now, of course, she doesn't know. Wendel the Dirty, I think he has 17 strength. So he's a pretty strong guy. And so I decided, well, we're going to do opposing strength checks and the whole bit, you know. And she crits. She rolls a natural 20 and freaking just takes him down. And, as a matter of fact, because she rolled a crit, I rolled percentile dice to make sure she didn't break his arm. I came up with some percentage. I thought, well, you know, what is the percentage that she actually breaks his arm? And luckily for him, I did not roll that. So she did not break his arm. But he now owes them a month of service. So they now have this guy, Wendel the Dirty, in their debt to be not... Slave is not the right word, because there was no word of that, you know, it wasn't that type of thing. It was more or less basically that he would be their man-at-arms, their hireling, whatever, you know. Hireling, I guess, minus money, you know. But he would go with them and in their service. And so they end up going to the Temple of Elemental Evil again. They've already been through a couple times. They made a couple forays in and got defeated and had to come back, retreat back. And so they decided to go back in. And they're, in this particular time, they're making pretty good headway. They're going room to room, and they're just clearing some shit out, you know, and they're fighting undead, and I think pretty much everything that they've encountered, they pretty much encountered a bunch of undead. There was probably some random encounters and so forth. They've been doing pretty good, you know. They rescued some people that had been kidnapped, you know, pretty standard adventuring stuff and so forth. But there's a room that they sack, and everybody's looting the guys, and they're checking this and they're checking that. And I made very clear to say there's a shield on the wall, looks like a standard serviceable shield on the wall, and nobody spoke up. So Wendel the Dirty is like, well, if nobody's going to take that shield, I'm going to take that sucker. So he goes over and he grabs his shield. And they decide at some point after that they better start checking for magic, you know, having somebody do detect magic and everything else like that. And they actually leave the dungeon because they need to go heal up and everything. So they go out to heal up and all that, and they have the magic user do detect magic and everything. And come lo and behold, this shield is magical, and so they tell him to drop it. You know that we want that shield. You know it's magic. He's like, fuck you. No one else didn't even care about it. I went over and grabbed it for myself. I'm like, I need this to protect myself, and I went over and grabbed it. Y'all didn't want it, I'm taking it, you know, and whatever. And, you know, he's seeing how dangerous this shit is in the Temple of Elemental Evil, you know, and here he's got a chance. Oh, hell, yeah, that might work, yeah. And they're going to take that from him after, you know, he's in their service. He is doing what he's been told to do. He's going in there and helping them fight and everything else like that, but be damned that here he's got something that can help him protect himself a little bit, and they're going to fucking take that too? Bullshit. He draws the line. He's like, no, I'm not. That's horseshit. You're not going to do, you know. And so they basically threaten him, and he gets to the point where he's like, you know what? I'm done. He throws the shield down, says, you can have the damn thing. I'm leaving. Screw you and your bet and everything else. I'm done. And he just starts walking off. He doesn't attack anybody, nothing else. He just starts walking off. So they start talking amongst themselves about, what do we do? You know, and somebody says, oh, well, you know, he's kind of a, you know, because our group is kind of wanted by the, for lack of a better term, the mafia style group of the world of Greyhawk, of the Flaness, known as the Watchers. They operate kind of like the mafia does, you know. And there's basically a hit out on them. And our group has been doing a pretty good job of misdirection, a campaign of misdirection and confusion about their identities and who they are and what group they are, and that they died. Some of them died, and you know, even though they didn't, and this whole thing. So they've been doing a pretty good job of that. But here goes this guy, and they're worried that perhaps he might talk to the wrong people, and the Watchers get wind of it. Blah blah blah. So they see him as a threat walking away. So they go and, you know, they just kill him. I mean, he's one guy, and you know, you've got a 5th level magic user, you know, a barbarian, a ranger, another fighter with a bow. I mean, he's clearly outnumbered. There's nothing he can do. They kill him. So there is the story of Wendel the Dirty, and that all started as just a random encounter in town for one particular player character, who isn't even part of the group usually. And now you have this. So here you have this poor bastard. Think of this in its totality. You have this poor bastard who is all by himself. He's walking into town, looks like shit, like he's been through a bunch of battles. He's all filthy. He's all bloody. He's walking. He's got this look of determination that he just wants to get to the tavern because he wants a frickin' beer. And this guy gets in his way and is trying to give him pamphlet, like, you know, the what do you call them? The not the Rastafarians, the Jehovah's Witness or whatever, you know, that type of thing. You know, oh, here, you gotta do it. And then he thumps him with his damn mace, you know, his damn cudgel. And of course he kicks his ass. And so this poor bastard just walking through, and that's how this whole thing started. And now he's dead. Now he had to go to the Temple of Elemental Evil. And yes, he took the bet and everything else like that. But if it hadn't been for that one random encounter, we wouldn't even know Wendel the Dirty. He would have never existed. I had to come up with that off the top of my head. And now, so now the party has to consider, and if any of you are watching, talking to you guys, any of my players out there, this is no metagaming. Don't consider any of this. Your players, your characters don't know any of this, what I'm getting ready to talk about. But you know, you never know what can happen. You don't know who Wendel the Dirty is. You don't know if he has a family. You don't know if he was traveling with other adventurers who were coming to meet him in Devers and are going to start asking about his whereabouts. Y'all don't. Our characters in the party don't know any of that, and I'm not going to talk about it. So, and any of my players out there, y'all don't know nothing. Your characters don't know nothing. So, but it all started with one die roll, and you never know where it's going to end up. That is what makes our hobby the most fun game I've ever played, because that whole story arc just happened with one die roll. That's how it can happen. So anyway, I know it's a long video. I don't give a shit. It's been a long time since I made one, so y'all can watch it in pieces if you want to. But of course, if you got to this part, you've already watched it. So anyway, I'm tired. I watched Game of Thrones tonight, and I'm drained. If you watched it, if you watched this particular episode, you know what I'm talking about. Holy shitballs. Whoo! If you play D&D and you have not watched Game of Thrones, I don't know what I'm speechless. I don't know what to tell you. If there's any one of you out there that are an avid D&D player or Pathfinder or any fantasy role-playing game and you have not watched Game of Thrones, I don't know what to tell you. You're just missing out beyond what I can even explain. So, anyway, that's it, guys. We will catch you on the flip side.